Hi, and welcome to this brief tutorial for Paper to Online, a summer reader transition to help you, your community, and your staff move from a paper summer reading program or overall reading program to an online program. This is a program that's really helpful to use the first time you're using Summer Reader if you want to transition from paper to online and you just want to get your staff used to using the program, but maybe you're not fully ready to release Summer Reader as an online program to the public. This is also a really handy program if you are one of our state contract customers and your entire state has purchased Summer Reader and maybe your community doesn't have a high level of internet access or you're in a very rural area where not a lot of folks are able to connect with the internet. And if that's the case, some communities do choose to use Summer Reader for statistics management so they can use the end of summer reports to get those statistics to the state. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can collect those statistics through Summer Reader with this type of program. So today I'm going to show you how to use this program to help your patrons sign themselves up, and then how your staff would give them the paper log and then help them with logging their reading, and then how the setup process for this type of program works. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So you can see here I have my reading program homepage set up, and I've set the page up in such a way that patrons can't access any of their information and they can't log information. But you'll notice that I do have a Sign Me Up button here. So in this particular scenario, we're going to pretend that your library has one computer that's dedicated to Summer Reader sign up. And when Summer Reading sign up starts, your patrons can come into the library and you would direct them to this particular computer or kiosk and tell them to click on the Sign Me Up button, fill in the appropriate information, and then stop by to visit you at the desk to pick up a reading log. You can see here we've also crafted the important messages so that they say that as well. So the library user can click Sign Me Up, and now they're taken to this form. And the form is completely customizable, but if your goal is to just get a lot of patrons signed up very quickly, you might want to keep it very brief or only require certain fields. In this case, I have first name, last name, and if this was a children's program, parent and guardian name, as well as age and phone number. Now, I've only required first name and last name, but you could require as many fields as you'd like. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can build that sign-up form in just a little bit. So in this case, we'll go ahead and type in the name of John Doe. We'll leave the parent and guardian information blank, and maybe in this case we'll say that John is 8 years old. And we'll click Save. A message pops up that says, "Thanks, you've registered successfully. Go ahead and see a member of the library staff for your reading log." And keep in mind that this message is fully customizable in the language and text setup page, which is available to you in the Summer Reader maintenance side of the product. So then your library user would click OK, and now we're back at the sign up page. So let's go ahead now and look at how you'd go about setting up this program. I'm going to log in as an administrator. And you can see there's my current reading program. Now, before we talk about the setup, let's take a step back and talk about what happens when John now comes in. He has his paper reading log, and he wants to log his reading with you. So he'd bring his paper reading log up to the desk, and you can search for him in one of two ways. If you had multiple reading programs going on, you could search all of your programs by searching for him on the Search All Programs box. If you wanted to search in a specific program, you can just click on the program name and then search just within that reading program. So we'll go ahead and search for Doe, and there's John Doe. Now the reading log icon is right here, so we'll click this. And in this case, we're logging books. Now, if you're going to be using this for statistical purposes to your state, you're most likely not going to necessarily need every title that was read by your patrons or exactly what was read to fulfill the minutes or hours or pages requirement. So we've just left this very blank, and I'll show you how to do this yourself in just a moment. But you can see it just is asking for books, not titles or reviews or any of that. So we'll just assume that John's brought his reading log with him. He's read 10 books since the last time he saw you. We'll type in 10, hit save. And now you can see here's John's name, and you can see that he's read 10 books. And that tally will remain for as long as you're running your reading program. But now let's go ahead and take a step back, and let's talk about what it looks like when you're setting up a program like this. So we'll go and click on System Maintenance, and we'll go ahead and click Add Program. So let's go ahead and set up our program. I'm going to go and place my contact information in here. And while I do that, I'm also going to go and add in some program information. So we're going to call this the Summertime Beach Reading, and the abbreviation for this program will be Beach Reading. And we'll say the description is join us for a fun reading program, and everyone is welcome to join. Now, if you decide that you want to let your patrons sign themselves up at a kiosk in the library, you can go ahead and just leave the registration settings open. So we'll do that in this case. We'll also select a registration date. And since this is December, I'm going to say that registration opens today, and I'm going to say that it's going to end at the end of this month. Now, one important thing to note is that if you decide to not have your patrons sign themselves up and you close patron registration, you'll want to just sign them up on the administrative side of the program. So they'll come to the desk, and you could quickly sign them up on the administrative side of the program. And we'll test that before we close this video today. So we'll leave patron registration open. We'll manage our registration start and end dates. We'll just say that registration type is individual. I wouldn't recommend doing this for groups. We'll just leave eligibility requirements as none and set pretty much everything to no. We're going to select no for patron logging because they're not going to be logging their own reading. And we'll just have to skip everything else. Everything else is set to no or off until we get to primary log type settings. Now this is where you're going to decide how you want your patrons to log their information for their reading, or how you'll log it for them. So we'll just say that in this case we're going to calculate our patrons' reading by minutes. Now if you'd like, you can set up prizes for your reading program. If you do set up prizes, what will happen is as your staff members are logging reading for your patrons, they'll be notified of prizes that your public will be winning as they're typing in the amount of minutes or books that they've read if they've reached a particular goal. However, if you're planning on not having particular reading goals, maybe you're going to be doing just random drawings, then don't worry about prizes and just leave the program goal at 0. You can also select secondary logging types, so if you're interested in doing minutes and hours and giving your patrons that sort of control over deciding what types of logging they want to do, you can do that as well. But in this case, we'll just say that everyone's going to have to log minutes. And we'll make sure we turn off prizes as well as registration prizes, and then hit save. Okay, we're happy with the language being English, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit continue. And now we're on the program registration page. So in this case, first name is always enabled, and we're going to leave it as required. I'm going to disable username because our patrons won't be logging in to the site. I'm also going to disable password. Last name is enabled. I'm not going to run a children's program, so I'm going to turn off parent name. I will also turn off age and gender, and I'm going to turn off birth date and grade. So you can go ahead and keep address if you would like. In this case, though, I'm going to turn all of these off. Now maybe I want to keep zip code for the sake of statistics, but I'm not going to make it a required field. But I am going to require phone number and email, and you can see I've enabled those two as well as made them required fields. I'm also going to turn off primary library in this case, and we'll hit save. and then we're automatically taken to our program log. Now, because we're only interested in books or minutes or hours or pages, I'm going to get rid of almost all of the fields that are typically on a logging setup page. So I'm only interested in quantity, and I'll leave that as required, and then I'm going to disable the review area, so my patrons won't write reviews because we're not going to be adding that to the reading logs on the staff side. If you wanted to add title, you could. You could make it enabled but not necessarily required. However, if you're not interested in tracking titles that your patrons are reading, you can just completely leave that disabled. So now we'll go ahead and hit save. And let's go and refresh our home page to see what that looks like. And when we click on Beach Reading, you can see here's our program, and our patrons can go ahead and click Sign Me Up and fill out the brief form and be ready for this program. Now, something else to keep in mind about your program is that if you decide you don't want your patrons to sign themselves up for your program and you want to manage all of that for the first time, you can do that really easily, and I want to show you what that looks like. So now we have our two programs that are set up, and we have a patron that comes to the desk and they want to sign up for summer reading. So in order to help them with that, we'll click on the program name and we'll click on Register Patron. And from here you can fill out the patron information, and then you can hit save, or if they already have started their reading logs, you can hit save and it will automatically redirect to logging, and then you can start logging their reading times. So that about sums up how you can create a very quick program that helps you manage your statistics and helps your community transition from a paper program to an online program. I hope that you find this helpful, and if you have any questions, please contact us at support@evantsolutions.com.